Okay, let's see how we go with this one. This is a book review for Jane Harper, Last One Out, No One Stays Forever. This is the book that got me through the 9 hours from Brisbane International Airport to Shanghai National Airport, where, ta-da, we are today. So Jane Harper is an Australian author. I think this is her 6th book. I haven't read all 6, but I have read a couple. She has a very Australian style. She writes mysteries and thrillers that are very based in Australian culture and land. I've got this rather beautiful copy here, courtesy of Sue. It's got a wraparound cover. The back cover is replicated on the inside of the front cover. And at the back we've got a little bit of a blurb about the author and her other books. So this is a slow burn thriller. It doesn't start, there's not a lot of bangs and flashes and whistles. And we start with a prologue, and the prologue describes the event that the rest of the book is based upon. We've got a young man who's visiting 3 abandoned houses, and very atmospherically Jane Harper creates this scenario which is incredibly detailed, very believable, and very, very Australian. So in Australia we've got a lot of towns that have been taken over by various mining corporations. In this case it is a coal mining operation that has taken over Carillon Ridge. And her description of the site is perfect. It feels very Australian to anyone who's been there, and she describes the tensions within the town between those who want to oppose the mine, which they can't really do, but want to resist to the last, and the ones who give in, sell their houses. And of course, the earlier you sell your houses to the mining corporation, the better price you're going to get. So the ones that are still hanging on, still resisting, are resentful of the ones who sell first. In every single one there's this domino effect. So there's some tensions within the town. Now when we start, like I said, we've got this young man. He's come back to Carillon Ridge, which is his hometown. He's 21. It's his 21st birthday when the event occurs. He's just driven his little red hire car, which he's brought with him from Sydney University, where he's studying. He's a bit worried about the track, so he stops it at a gate and then walks up to these 3 abandoned houses, beautifully described. One of them is a sandstone cottage, another one is completely covered in ivy, and one is an old, slowly degrading wooden-style farmhouse. So we don't actually find out exactly what happens. We get the atmosphere and we get the setting, and then we skip to 5 years later. And our main protagonist, told in third person, is Rowena is the mother of the boy we first met in that 5 years ago prologue. His name was Sam, and he vanishes, as you know, because we've read the back of the book, right? And his vanishing tears apart Rowena and Griffin's marriage and their daughter Della, who was also part of all of that. But it's also symptomatic of the town, which is tearing itself apart over the mine. So Ro comes back for this little memorial that the family hold every year on the missing Sam's birthday, and also on the day he vanished, his 21st. On this day he would have been 26, but of course he's vanished, and we get an incredibly delicate touch as the author describes the tensions between these people who are all normal, decent people, and this thing has happened. And we slowly see the degradation of the town between 5 years ago, when it was still fairly vibrant, to today, when it's almost completely deserted. Most people who could sold, the ones who left it too late couldn't sell, but they had to leave anyway. There's coal dust in the air and it causes flash fires. There is coal dust in the water, so you can't drink too much of it. It's the slow poisoning of a town that is very topical in a lot of rural Australian areas. Now, we don't really know where it is, and I think it's based on many towns rather than one town. But we hear that it's 5 hours drive away from Sydney, so I'm going to say New South Wales, through Canberra, maybe Victoria, that sort of general area. But it could be any town in that inland Australian area. So Ro has driven up from Sydney. Her daughter Della has also driven up from her successful accounting job in Sydney, and Griff is still there in the old house, and these tensions sort of flow and ebb, and through them we meet all the other inhabitants of the town, or at least the core ones that are still left. There's the two boys who are Sam's best friends. They're now 27 or 26, and they have never left. They're still there. One of them, Joshua, his mother used to own the ivy-coated abandoned house, but was forced to sell it through her ex-husband. The sandstone one used to be owned by the grandfather of the other boy, who was one of Sam's two best friends, and they're still there, those boys, now men, and they're using drones to try and find out any malfeasance on the part of the mine. So they're basically combating the mine, and you've got all these other characters associated. Now, the third house in those three houses, the wooden farmhouse, was actually lived in by Warren, who was Griffin's cousin, so Sam's kinda uncle, and who committed suicide many years ago. And when Sam was 17, so about 3 or 4 years before his disappearance, and you've got all these different things that sort of feed into each other. Essentially, this is a very human story, because it's the people and their interrelationships and the things they're going through and who they are and how they relate that make this such a good and enthralling book. It was a 9-hour flight. 369 pages. I never stopped. I pretty much went straight through it. It was perfect that way. Beautifully written, and with this very humanistic approach to people and what they do and how they do it. Now, Rowena hasn't gone back with the intention of finding out what happened to Sam, but no one's ever known. No one's ever known where no body was ever found. Traces of him around the three cottages was found, but he looked like he was just wandering around. No one ever knew what he was doing there. The phone data shows that he never left the town. The phone at least never left the town, and pretty much everyone assumes that he's dead, but no one knows what's happened. Even though the goal was not to find out what happened, Rowena finds Della, her daughter, trying to talk to Sam's two best friends, and there's obviously something there that she isn't telling her mother. And finally, Della reveals to her mum that she's found this little bit of information that she doesn't think it's anything much, but it doesn't fit in. She can't understand it. So she's talking to Sam's two best friends to try and understand it, and their resistance, they're pretending that this thing never happened, makes her suspect that it might actually be a thing. It might be something real. And so that sets us down the path of finding out what really happened to Sam. And each of the details is very organically woven into a pretty elaborate scheme of things. And we do at the end find out what happened to Sam. Not until right at the end. I was starting to be worried that I wouldn't be told, and I wanted to be told. But you've got people who say things, and only now, 5 years later, are the dots joined so that Rowena can start to make a picture, and she starts to have suspicions about people that she never suspected, and then she wants to continue believing them. I'm going to say it's a very good story. If you like Australian fiction and you don't read a lot of it, you could do worse than the last one out. No One Stays Forever. And if you want a book with very Australian setting and scenario, I'd say go for this one. Would recommend, did enjoy. Thank you for watching. Read good books. Even on aeroplanes, just read good books.